Would you recognize an enlightened master if he or she was standing directly in front of you? Hello, this is Chris speaking. Wake up with a video about how to recognize enlightened masters or mistresses. Although we don't use that term, do we? So, in many conversations, I had the impression that a lot of people in the spiritual world, so to say, people who were seeking after enlightenment, after higher states of consciousness, had the impression of themselves that they could easily recognize someone who is enlightened. Why? On what grounds do you think that you're an expert in spotting an enlightened person? How many have you met already? What's your experience? Or do you compare to what you already know? Your mummies and your daddies and other authority figures, or love relationships, the feeling of love, aren't they supposed to have an aura of love and compassion around them that blows one away and makes you cry? Or do we compare to movies and books or the Bible or the Quran? Why do we expect, or many of us expect, that if we were to encounter such a person, that it would blow us away, blow us out of our shoes, and flood us with barakah, with universal love? On what grounds? Why? There is no example for that. I have met quite a few enlightened persons, and with none of them I had this impression. Yes, in satsang, if someone is arrogant enough to sit on a platform in front of an audience and give a satsang, okay. But anyway, so in a satsang, it is possible that a certain particular positive feeling will spring up, and then we think, oh yes, this is it. But this is easy. Anyone can do this in a satsang situation. Partly because we're trained to be bootlicking authority adulators. But meet this same person before or after the show privately and see if you also get this satsang vibe of compassion and positivity and universal cosmic conscious love. The answer is no. So I'm not trying to make fun of certain people here, although I just did, but what I'm trying to say is you cannot recognize if someone is awake or not, or enlightened or not, or super enlightened or not, or an avatar or not, if you yourself are asleep. It's just not possible. The only way to see if someone is enlightened is if you enlighten yourself. Because then you can feel, okay, this guy or girl is like me. That's the only way. There are a few exceptions, like there are some cities that you could have which tell you the scale of consciousness someone is at. But those are rare and have to be practiced. But no one is walking around with a halo or with an aura of amazing love. So, my advice to you, stop running around looking for a certain thing, a certain sign. You might already know someone who is awake or enlightened in your closer vicinity who could be of tremendous help to your journey, and you haven't recognized him or her because you were looking for something else. It's almost like in relationships. I know so many women who look for the perfect white knight, someone who's tall and with a deep voice and the looks of Hugh Grant or Antonio Banderas, and he has a lot of money and is very generous and he's very masculine and very tough and at the same time very sensitive and compassionate, and he can read your thoughts and emotions, and he's very successful and famous and drives a Porsche and is an expert in flowers, and he can cook and massage and is gentle and a bodybuilder, and he always knows what he wants and he always knows what you want and all this crap. Yeah, just like that, like those guys do not exist because it's a contradiction. We look for a perfect hero or heroine. We have this picture in our head of our perfect woman or our perfect man, our perfect guru. And the question arises, if Freud wasn't too far off, that we're looking for our perfect parents and everyone. Or maybe it's just arrogance. Many people think not only would they recognize an enlightened person on the spot, that enlightened person would also recognize them as the perfect disciple, as the man or woman who is ready for the journey of consciousness. Yeah, right. How likely is that? So just reflect a moment. Why do you think you could recognize someone? And why do you think so? And who do you compare this person to? Who have you met already who you would compare another person to, who you think is obviously enlightened? In private, not on the stage, not in a satsang, in private life. And how many enlightened people have you already met in private life? I remember more than 20 years ago, I also thought I would recognize a enlightened person, but I didn't. I met one, and I only saw afterwards, after he died, that he was an enlightened person. I mean, I knew that there was something special about him and I really liked him, and I stayed with him for as long as possible, but I didn't know that he was enlightened because he had such an atmosphere of normality about him. He was just a very enjoyable chap to be around. That was it. He was funny and he wasn't arrogant and he was calm, but he didn't have any of this aura, pizzazz, this holy atmosphere around him. And only now I see that this is exactly it. This is exactly it. There's a difference between this religious, mystic atmosphere that is like falling in love. You're like a soulmate, only like a teacher. On the one hand, that has nothing to do with enlightenment, mostly, in most cases. And on the other hand, this natural, calm, unpretentious, almost invisible atmosphere, but with a hint of humor. Very, very normal, basically. That's actually how all the enlightened people I met were. And now I know how to recognize them now, but I didn't before, when it was just my imagination how they would look like. Okay, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Thank you to all my patrons, and thank you for joining me as a patron. And see you soon.